I'm going to drop a very quick warning about Diane in this video. In this video, Diane does something that's incredibly infuriating and probably the most mad that I've just been at someone on the internet. Diane's going to forgive herself and tell you should do the same thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn to forgive yourself for things you put yourself through, but I don't think you should be the one forgiving yourself for things you put someone else through. And that's what Diane did. So I think this is a good time to prepare yourself to be mad, specifically at Diane. This video was 2 hours and 15 seconds of recording for me commentating on a 20-minute video. That is how much I had to say about Diane and her terrible, terrible ideas. She stresses in this video multiple times that she's not a therapist, and you need to believe her and you need to listen to her when she says that point. She's not a therapist. She's going to read random things off the internet. She's going to say, these are my sources, and provide a PNG from Wikipedia, and she's going to move on. She just looks evil, dude.
Emotional triage. How do I cope? This is all about dealing with the emotional fallout after being dumped by your child. So today,
I've said this a couple times, and I'm going to keep saying it. I don't enjoy the way she speaks of her relationship with her child as if it may have been a romantic one. I get the words you're trying to use, and I get the type of situation you're trying to draw with those words, but calling it a breakup is so weird. And if it is a breakup, you are very much acting like the stalker ex. You're making videos about them, you're calling them, you're texting them, you're talking to people about them, although only your side, and they don't even acknowledge you exist.
we're going to talk through the full range of emotions. It's something important for you to understand. Keep in mind that feelings are something you have, not something you are. So
that is a good point. Feelings, like most things, like your job, right? It's something you do. It's not who you are. Feelings are something you have, not who you are. That works until your entire personality and your entire being is just making videos based on those feelings for someone who does not want you to do that. That's the problem, really, is if these videos were just like for herself on her personal computer and they were therapeutic, okay, sure, a little weird, but not a problem. Instead, you're getting on the internet and you're blasting your daughter for existing. And then you're trying to tell people how to manage the situation you placed yourself in a much better and healthier way than you ever did, in ways that you can't. Something you're never going to be able to do if you're Diane is admit fault. I think that's probably just the big one. Everything else stems from there. Rather than admitting fault, she forgives herself. Is kind of just all that happens. And now she's like, okay, but this is how you should handle it. And some of this advice is going to be good. Some of the past videos advice has been good because it's not her advice. It's just not. She's definitely reading from somewhere and off something. She's done it multiple times. The issue is she's preaching advice she did not and does not follow. She talks about contrition multiple times in these videos about how she just couldn't give it up, how she couldn't admit any sort of fault. And later on, either the last video or the one before that, she speaks of how as a parent, you have to understand that at least some of it was your fault. But she won't say that. She says sometimes something like, I admitted which of these were my fault, and then deep dives into maybe I didn't buy her the candy that she wanted. That's like someone breaking up with you and being like, you don't listen to me. And then being like, I listen, I just don't remember anything you say ever. You're wrong. Hey, Diane.
emotions that we discussed in the beginning were shock, disbelief, shame, and regret. We spoke briefly about anger, frustration, sadness, and grief.
We're 36 seconds in. I'm going to say this. This video only has 2,500 views. All of my last few videos have gotten more than that. I don't know why I want to. I want to ratio Diane. I think it'd be really, really funny if I ratioed Diane using one of her own videos. So After you watch this video, do me a favor, play it again, and then just walk away. Walk out of your house. For no other reason than I would like to ratio Diane.
And we went over fear, anxiety, hope, and denial. All of these are part of the shock phase.
Mostly, okay, I should probably talk about that. I don't take Diane seriously as a person. Diane is a caricature of a bad mother. But that's who she is. She doesn't pretend to be one. And she's not purposefully doing dumb things. It's just who she is. She's someone who forced herself and her daughter into a situation that sucks for both of them. Someone in the comment section said, oh, this really, really sucks for both of them. Can't really judge her for her actions. You can. It sucks for both of them. I'm always going to be on the side of it sucks more for the child. It sucks more for the person who is not forced to abandon the family. Rather, if Diane was the person that had to leave and the daughter got to spend all her time with her sister and her dad and the rest of her family, okay, maybe it would suck more for Diane. But it's the other way around. You can absolutely critique Diane on her actions, and that's what we've been doing. And her actions have so far all been the wrong ones. No one's asking anyone to be perfect. There are plenty of examples of parents out there who are not perfect, who don't make the best decisions most of the time, but who try hard and are loved as much as they love their kids. She tried. This is in a video that is now deleted from her that we saw through someone else. And I don't know if that's going to get its own video, but it's in my VOD somewhere. We saw her list a bunch of celebrities who were also estranged parents, and she listed all celebrities who were, and I'm sure she didn't do this on purpose, but she listed celebrities who had been abusive to their kids or who were bad people. I'm sure she could find examples. I don't have any, but I'm sure she could find examples of celebrities who kids are estranged strictly because they didn't have time for them, regardless of love or effort. I'm sure she could find great examples of celebrities who were estranged through no massive fault of their character. But she didn't. She chose, there were 6. One of them was Brad Pitt, right? Who's entire stable of kids has disowned him, and they've all changed their last name or are in the process of. 50 Cent was on there, and I think 50 Cent had been physically abusive to his kid. The video's deleted now, and I don't remember what day we watched it, so I can't just pull it up. But there were 6 examples, and they were all bad parents, and so she did not do herself any favors by comparing herself and her situation to them. You're right. You're absolutely right. Those are situations in which the kids had to distance themselves from parents who did a bad job. Elon Musk. Elon Musk. You're right, Smirky. She did also mention Elon Musk, who is a weird. First off, if I saw my dad get on stage for whatever convention they were having and then do a full jump into a starfish, I would also disown him. But Elon Musk is 1, misogynistic, 2, transphobic, and you can gather that from the way that he speaks to his daughter, right? And the things he says about his daughter and the way that he acts, and will just straight up say that his daughter's dead. So that's who you are, Diane. I think she chose people who were financially successful to try and make herself feel better.
Hope and denial. All of these are part of the shock phase that we went through in the last video. So I did a survey on my YouTube channel a little while back.
In running a survey on your own YouTube channel, if I ran a survey right now that was is Diane a bad mom? It would be 95% yes. Because the audience is people who are either estranged parents and saw that they made a mistake and don't want to be like Diane. The children of estrangement who are whoa, this is exactly like my mom. I'm so glad we don't talk anymore. Or people who are just here because they've been here for a while. It's not super common that my comments are like, oh, no, Diane is right. It does happen, but it's not that common. In the same way that her audience is mostly people that think like her, is mostly people who are the estranged parents and don't want to take accountability or don't realize that their children are people too and not just extensions of them. So whatever poll she runs is going to be very biased. Also because let's say she runs a poll that is something like what she did. Why was there an estrangement? A lot of these parents, even in their own privacy, are not going to be able to admit what they did wrong. So let's say she has something like she has physical abuse and politics on there, right? The parents who are physically abusive and refuse to admit that, even to themselves, aren't going to put physical abuse. They're just not. So surveys like that just are never going to help you. She's going to use them. That's fine. That's whatever. I could do the same thing and be incredibly skewed. But on the topic of her audience, I'm not subscribed to her. At this point, I've seen all the videos she hasn't deleted, minus the two we're watching today. I don't want to have any of her things recommended to me. I don't want to have anything by anyone like her recommended to me. I'm not sub to her. I keep the tab open and I refresh it every like 4 or 5 days. If you see me back out of like the video, you'll notice I have 15 tabs and I have 4 different windows just like that. I am a hoarder. I've also watched a lot of hoarders.
About 1,000 people responded, and from what you guys said, about 1,000 people responded, okay. And from what you guys said as the audience in terms of anger, grief, loneliness, regret, other, which were you suffering most from? By and large, 47% was the vast majority of you said grief is what you're.
This is an entirely different poll than the one she did last time. I think this is actually a good poll. I don't know what other might have been. I don't know if it's up and we can go look at it, but we'll check. Regret is interesting. A full 1/6 of the people willing to vote on this voted regret. And I wonder which way that skews, right? I'm sure more of them are going to be like, I regret the way I handled it. There's got to be a very small percentage of people in there going, I regret I regret something stupid. Like there was a comment where they were talking about the abusive children, right? And so I'm sure there's like 1 or 2 people in there who are like, I regret letting my child abuse me for so long. Sometimes people comment while watching the video, and I think that's fine. But I answer a lot of my own questions. And so like in one of the videos the other day, I said something like, how can a child abuse their parent? And then I go on to answer that because like, yeah, you can. It's just super rare. And it gets more into like older teens. It's just not what we were talking about. And then like somebody gave me like an essay on that in the comment section. I don't think they got to the part where I was like, where I had answered it. Loneliness is super common. I think I would be incredibly lonely if my children left me. My children decided they didn't want to be my kids anymore. Grief makes sense. Anger is not real. If you're mad, who are you mad at? If you're mad at the kid, then you have something to figure out. If you're mad at yourself, then that's probably regret. I don't think anger is an emotion here. I think it's a symptom of one of the other ones.
Struggling with. So classifications for emotions vary, but the primal emotions found in most research studies include happy, sad, anger, fear, distrust, and surprise. So those are.
I don't know that I trust a study that places surprise and anger on there because those don't feel like emotions so much as reactions. I wish she'd just like pull this stuff up or link it somewhere so that I'm not just sitting here arguing opinions.
Those are the broad categories, and I will put some visual representations up there for you to see with a link to their origin where you can explore more. But
okay, but what is this?
in most research studies include emotions vary, but the primal emotions found in most research studies include happy, sad, anger, fear, distrust, and surprise. So those are the broad categories. And I will put some visual representations up there for you to see with a link to, their.
So she lists off primal emotions found in most research studies, gives this chart, says she's going to link it, links the chart rather than linking any study that may contain any of the primal emotions she listed off. And this is a big problem I have with Diane. She said, I'm going to link it, and just linked a picture after speaking about various studies that she used to kind of just like get her point across. If you have any of these studies, why wouldn't you link them? Like, that is so much more useful.
Fear, distrust, and surprise. So those are the broad categories. And I will put some visual representations up there for you to see with a link to, their origin where you can explore more. But we're going to focus on the lower.
Am I stupid? No, that's the only link she gave. The only link she gave, which is a Wikimedia, not even Wikipedia, Wikimedia, link to the PNG she used. This is like when I said that Brad Pitt's kids are changing their last name, and instead of linking an article that shows them changing their last name, I just linked a picture of Brad Pitt. Sorry, if you're on YouTube, you just missed a little bit of a rabbit hole. I don't think I'm leaving it in the video, but hi, we stream these. I try to do commentary streams once a week, so if you'd like to stop by, the Twitch is linked in the description. Other than that, we play Pokemon, so maybe don't come in on a Pokemon day.
Their origin where you can explore more. But we're going to focus on the lower half of these representations, which are surprise, fear, disgust, and anger, because these are the emotions that you are mostly processing when you are dealing with parental estrangement. So before we get into that, I want to set down some guidelines for effective expression. We need to let the emotions out, but we need to do it safely. And as always, get professional help if you feel like things are spiraling out of control.
So, yes, so close. You should get professional help. Anytime you're dealing with something that is bigger than yourself, which is typically a break in a relationship with someone else that is going to affect you deeply, that is not going to be resolved by just a little bit of time, you should seek help. So what I mean is, if you go through a breakup with a romantic partner, that sucks, and it's gonna suck, and it's gonna feel bad, but you're gonna get over it with time. If there was abuse, if there was neglect, if you have PTSD, those are reasons to find professional help. Your child deciding that they don't want you to be their parent is a situation that should not just be healed by a little bit of time. That is something you should seek professional help for. That is something you should go to a therapist and say, is it me? Am I the problem? And a good therapist will be honest with you. But then don't do what Diane did and then say that you couldn't give up contrition and then stop going to therapy. Like, you just have to take it.
So here are some safe expression techniques. The number one rule here is to choose a safe and private place to process your emotions. So journaling, writing, or recording.
I agree. I agree. I agree so much. I agree so much. A safe and private place to process your emotions. Journaling, recording, writing a letter and throwing it away, burning it, putting it in a bottle, letting it go, recording a video and uploading it to YouTube, but sending it on private. Not recording multiple videos and publicly listing them on YouTube to try and force the narrative that your daughter is a villain and you are just trying to survive the things that she has put you through. I hope her daughter's never had to see any of these videos. I hope her daughter's never had friends text her and be like, whoa, your mom's video was wild, dude. I hope her daughter is out there living a really, really nice life, whatever she's doing, whoever she's doing it with. And I hope her daughter doesn't have to think about her mom at all. At all. At all. At all.
Either audio or video to get feelings out are effective tools. Creative arts like painting, pottery, crafting, weaving, knitting, gardening, very effective. Physical activity like singing, dancing, walking, running, or working out can be very effective. And
things like that don't work for me. I do a bad job of my brain needs to be stimulated. I can go into flow, if I'm drawing or whatever, writing, but I can't run and hang out with my thoughts. That makes me sad. Or driving. Driving's also bad for me.
And structured venting sessions, either with a therapist or a support group. Now I need to kind of talk about the role of mindfulness and self-care. We did go over this in the last video, but this is a foundational principle that you really need to always carry with you through.
She said something that I glossed over. I'll go back.
Talk about the role of mindfulness and self-care. Running or working out can be very effective. And structured venting sessions, either with a therapist or a support group.
I think the issue with a lot of these parents, and I say a lot because there has to be some that this does not apply to. It's just not any of the ones that we've seen. Is that they're very much narcissistic. If you don't want to call them narcissists, if you're going to get mad at me for calling them narcissists, sure, whatever. I'm not here to diagnose anyone with anything. They have narcissistic tendencies, one of which is needing to be the center of attention. And so putting them all in a group and being okay, it's your turn to vent is exactly why she left the Facebook group, right? She said there was too many people with the same problem and they were all trying to talk. They're not there to listen. And unfortunately, when you vent or you want to talk about your feelings, you do kind of need someone to listen. As much as it helps just to say these things, if that's your thing. If you're going to talk to someone, you want them to listen, which is how we get 16 hours of Diane videos, some of which have been deleted, some of which we'll never find. The video where she calls pretty much all non-white people at UCLA who are getting medical degrees DEI hires and unqualified. Wish she didn't delete that one. I would love to talk about that. I'll try and find it through someone else. I don't think anyone's re-uploaded any of her videos, but we have clips of that one from the therapist, from the Australian therapist.
Now I need to kind of talk about the role of mindfulness and self-care. We did go over this in the last video, but this is a foundational principle that you really need to always carry with you through this process. You need to stay present in the moment as much as possible, and you need to take care of you to help ground yourself while you're coping with these tumultuous emotions. So deep breathing exercises. There are many. There are some that are long and slow, and there are some that are really super fast, and which may feel funny and look funny on camera, but they are very effective for dealing with intense emotions. And there are others that I invite you to research online.
She ended that. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but she ended it with, there are others that I invite you to look at online. The same way that she cites her sources, she kind of just says, there are others, trust me, bro. And that bothers me. Hello. She did say something I did want to talk about.
Feel funny and look funny on camera, but they are very effective for
Again, a lot of this is very general advice that she gathers from other places. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because it's just like that. Like, hey, go breathe, go take a walk, go talk to a therapist. Yes, right. The issue is that these are things she doesn't do. And I don't know that you should trust someone who is so willing to give you advice that they themselves did not follow. And we have hours, straight hours of her as a person doing the exact opposite of all these things. She went to therapy and said she didn't like it because she had to give up too much contrition. I guess she did go on a hike, right? We have a video of her outside, but she didn't even like go on a hike for herself. She went up to the top of a very small hill, very snowy mountain, sat down a camera and said, "I'm letting my daughter go. She was a bad daughter." And just kind of rambled for 40 minutes and didn't say anything. Like, her entire life is just now different ways of trying to use her daughter for attention. And she's turned it around and just started preaching and just gone, okay, well, this is how you can get over it like I did, but didn't do any of this. If she just like shut up and went to therapy for a couple months, sat down and said, this is who I am, this is what I did, and this is what I learned in therapy over the last few months, I don't think any of us would have an issue with it. But instead, she just wants to be the person everyone listens to. She doesn't have the experience. She doesn't have the mindfulness. She doesn't have the intelligence to speak of the things that she speaks of. And this isn't the part of the comics where you go, well, you're 27, Max. You don't have any experience either. I'm not pretending to be anything I'm not. Diane is an estranged mom. Diane is unfortunately a bad mom. Diane is not a therapist. Diane is not someone with the experience to tell you how to get past this. Diane can 100% be like, this is the situation I'm in. This is how I've dealt with it. That's not what's happening. She's telling you how to deal with it in things that she's telling you how to deal with it in ways that she didn't. That's the problem. And if she said for a second, I wouldn't do this because I did do this and it was the wrong choice, that's entirely different than going, do this, and something she just didn't try. Feels like being the victim became her identity. It did. And I think it's because of the attention that she got from it. Whatever room I walk into, I never want to be the smartest person. And in the rooms that I'm in, I never am. I feel so grateful to be surrounded by so many smart people. If you put me in a room with Diane, it would be frustrating to try and have any conversation with her that was productive because she just can't see anything besides like her immediate emotions. I'm gonna zoom out of my face here so that YouTube can see what I've been staring at this entire time that I've been talking. For however long I've been talking on this frame, I've just been staring at Diane. This specifically. These are the things I do for you.
Dealing with intense emotions. And there are others that I invite you to research online. Prayer, meditation, and affirmation. There are so many videos on even just YouTube to guide you through these exercises. And any enjoyable activities that bring you joy and relaxation, like long walks in nature, which I did a lot of and I highly recommend.
Very close. If that's your thing, if going out for a walk in nature is going to help you, 100%. But if you're going to go out for a walk, set up a camera, and then make another one of these videos, you're just wasting time.
Pastimes and hobbies that you really enjoy, outings with friends and family that are still with you. And through this process of dealing with these emotions, you want to acknowledge and name your demons. So you're going to have to summon up the courage.
In talking about friends and family that are still with you, that's hard. I want you to imagine a situation in which you and your sister, right? You and your brother, you and your sibling. If you don't have a sibling in this situation, you do. I want you to imagine it's you and we'll just make them a twin, right? It's you and another set of you. And you watched their relationship with your mother dissolve. And their mother was exactly who Diane is. And now they're gone. And you're left to make a decision, right? You watch this happen to your sibling and you get little bits of it yourself. Maybe it's not as bad as their relationship, but sometimes your parent can be a lot. You just haven't found it in you to say, this is enough for me to leave. How do you manage the relationship between you and your parent and your sibling, and you and your sibling? Because you're probably going to hear them both complain about each other. Are you okay like going out with your mom and hearing your mom talk about your sibling negatively? And maybe they don't talk about it to you, but they upload these videos and you have your own opinions and you disagree with some of the things she says. And some of these are at the very least very much blown out of proportion. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. If this was my mother and my sibling cut them off, I would also cut them off. How do you feel about the other family members that didn't? Okay, I think that's a good point. You want to say that you don't want to be involved, but this is one of those times where you're probably going to hurt someone's feelings no matter what, right? And to say that you don't want to be a part of it is to say that you want to leave your sibling, period. Because they're leaving and you don't want to. In this situation, it'd be really easy to validate your sibling's feelings. But to say that you don't want to be involved is to be like, okay, dude, not my problem. And that sucks because that probably just isolates them. And that goes back to how I feel it's harder for the kids because the kids are the ones that have to leave. And the kids are the ones that don't get to celebrate with you, whether it's Christmas or birthdays or whatever. They're the ones that had to leave for their own well-being and also are now just exiled. A good example is I know plenty of people in the Pokemon space where we've seen other people be racist or problematic in people's chats, and I'll ban them immediately. If someone says something racist in like BB's chat, I'm going to ban them here. I'm not going to question that. But I can give you actual examples of people who have gone, well, they didn't do that in my chat, or they didn't do that to me, or they're not like that to me. And that causes a rift. Because now, like, I don't trust those people. I cannot trust you. If you can't see that that's an issue, and it's not that, it's also not that rare. Sometimes people are just annoying, and I'll ban them for being annoying. And if you don't, like, that's it. And you don't have to ban them. You don't have to think they're annoying. Like, that's not a problem. But I can give you, like, real examples of someone specifically being racist in PP's chat. Me recognizing that that person was a very common viewer in someone else's chat. Me sending them screenshots and explaining the situation. And them going straight up, they're not like that in my chat. And you're like, right, they're not going to be racist in an old white man's chat. Like, that doesn't make sense. And essentially them going, they're not like that here is them going, I don't want to be involved. It's also what she tried to pull when this whole thing started. And she brought up the letter. And in the letter, she goes, it seemed like it was all about politics, which I thought was more of an issue between her and my husband, Ted, because I'm not even that political. If that was true, which we now know it wasn't, right? Like, she's very, very political. She's very right wing. If that was true, that probably, honestly, that's probably forgivable. Like, that sucks. And you probably just say your parents were both like that and that you don't see them a lot. But you're probably not cutting off your mom for just like existing.
Courage to confront this process of dealing with these emotions. You want to acknowledge and name your demons. So you're going to have to summon up the courage to confront your deepest fears and pains around estrangement. This will not be an easy ride. You're going to need to face your feelings of failure, rejection, and your loss of identity as a parent.
This is once again another thing she did not do. Like, all you have to do is state this and then give examples. Your own examples, because this is your video, this is your experience, right?
You're going to basically dig through the garbage. You're going to name it. You're going to acknowledge it. You're going to sit with it. And you're going to forgive yourself and others for.
One, she treats this garbage better than she treated her daughter already. Second, I hate that. I hate the idea of forgiving yourself for something you did to someone else. I think as people, we grow up and we exist being unkind to ourselves. And at some point, you do have to sit with yourself and forgive yourself for the things you put yourself through for whatever reasons. But forgiving yourself for the things you did to someone else, that is wild.
It. And eventually you will come to the point where you are able to release it and let it go to the wind. This is essentially the healing process in a nutshell, but it is the path to peace, joy, and love in your life again. And of course, again, seek professional help if you feel like your emotions are spiraling out of control, if your thoughts run to self-harm or suicide or harm of others. Definitely seek professional help. You are absolutely worth it. And the other thing that we always want to remember through this process is that you need to embrace self-care and forgiveness. I've said it before. I will say it again because it is that important to the process. Bring your self-compassion to every activity.
If you are someone who can forgive yourself for the actions you did to others without their acknowledgement, is there a word for that? Because that is so wild to me. That must bring you so much peace, but that's not your place. I cannot imagine. I can't imagine. There are things that I've ignored and I've tried to let go of, but I cannot sit here and be like, oh, I forgive myself for some of the things that I've said to people. Nothing's that hardcore. I'm pretty unproblematic. I'm kind of mean, but I'm not problematic. Also, I think people think I'm joking when I say that. No, I'm pretty mean.
Toward yourself and towards your estranged child. Nurturing negative emotions can hinder your healing and it can be detrimental to your health. Cultivating forgiveness can pave the way for inner peace and maybe even reconciliation, if not with your child, at least within your own heart.
That's wild. Forgiving yourself in order to reconcile with your child. That is... I want you to put yourself in the position of her daughter. And for some reason, you've agreed to sit down with her, right? She comes up to where you are. She sits down. And the first thing she says is, I've forgiven myself for what I did to you. We can be a family again. That would kill me. I think I would puke. Just straight up. We're an hour in and we're 5 minutes into the video. This is going to be a long one. Oh my God. For those of you who are watching on YouTube a lot later, we are 5 minutes and 40 seconds into the video and I've been recording for roughly an hour and 10 minutes. And then I have to watch this back multiple times. So... please leave a like. Watch it again. Watch it twice. I want to ratio Diane. We don't talk about how weird it is that she calls it being dumped. No, exactly. That is such a weird thing. I think the first 25 minutes of this video are just that. Words matter. Words matter a lot.
At least within your own heart. So, here are some tools for dealing with these negative emotions. Remember, the good life is a process, not a state of being. Category number 1, surprise. This includes shock, disbelief, confusion.
What she just did is say surprise and says this includes and then gave 3 synonyms and then confusion.
Here are some tips with dealing with the unexpected. You absolutely want to give yourself time to adjust to the shock of what's just happened. Mm-hmm. You want to get support from the people who care about you in this life, the ones who are still with you. You want to communicate your experience to others as much as you are able.
This sucks because of the type of people you're placing in this situation. You want to communicate your experience to others is a wild way to say tell as many people as you can your side of the story so that the child of yours doesn't have a chance to do the same thing, because otherwise you may be looked at badly.
And maybe it's not always comfortable, but get support from others.
Also, there's so much like consent that has to happen there. If you are an adult in my life and you've done something like this to your kid, I'm not the person you want to come talk to about it. I don't want to listen to you. I'm going to tell you you're wrong. That goes for anything. If I think you're wrong and you're like, hey, I'm going to tell you something I've been going through and it's stupid, I will say that. I usually give people a warning when they're like, hey, I'm going through stuff. Can I tell you about it? I'm like, yeah, for sure. I'm probably not going to care. Also, if you're the bad person in this, I'm going to point that out. Like if you're going through a breakup and you're like, oh, every time we talk, I just like yell at her, but I don't know why she's leaving me. I'm like, well, maybe because you're, yelling at her. Maybe try being nice, dude.
You want to focus on engaging in healthy behaviors. You want to eat well and sleep well and do what you can to kind of take care of yourself. You need to establish or reestablish routines, because when you go through this shock, it can knock you for a loop. As soon as you possibly can, you want to get back into some kind of routine that will provide you with some kind of stability so that you can process and move forward. And during this time, you really want to avoid making major life decisions. If you've just been rejected by your child and you're dealing with the shock, you don't want to change your job if you can help it, or sell your house, or do other major life changes, because it could just be too much. It could be
Cut your hair, dye your hair, move on.
Overwhelming. Okay, let's talk about the category of fear. This includes anxiety, shame, guilt, regret. Here's how you cope with the fear of loss, which is really what estrangement kind of boils down to.
I hate that as an idea because, one, it's your fault you're losing something. Second, it's not a loss. It's just not. It's just not. This isn't a breakup. This isn't a romantic thing that you like, oh, I love this person so much, we're not compatible. Oh no. This is your child. And I will say that if it's gotten to this point, I'm just going to say it's too late. There are plenty of people who have reconciled with their parents, and either done it again or ended up being okay. The fact that you can stalk your daughter online, by the way, which is what she does. The fact that you can stalk your daughter online, but convince yourself that she's dead, hurts.
You want to identify your specific fears. What are they? Just what are your fears around this estrangement? And recognize that fear can work for you. You want to...
I feel like she is someone who would have put, I am scared that my daughter will never come back to me, while not recognizing that if that is something you want, one, you should never let it happen in the first place. But you have to be someone that is worth coming back to. You just do. In the same way that Diane couldn't get herself to stay in therapy because her therapist was telling her that it's her fault, it's not up to the child to put up with who you are. It's really not. It sucks that it got to the point where they had to leave. But unless you're like, you have to be worth coming back to. You just do.
Sit with that fear, invite it in, give it a cup of tea, sit down and let it tell you its story. Sit with the fear. You will find insight in your fear if you sit with it for a time.
This is something you should do with a professional. You are not, as a regular person, you are not smart enough to speak to yourself in a way about this that is going to give you any helpful insight. And if what you do is skip insight and go directly into forgiving yourself like Diane did, you're wasting everyone else's time, especially in making these videos. In the exact same way that I wouldn't take my car's engine out if it went out, you should not be diving into your own brain trying to come up with solutions you don't have the words for. If you're not smart enough to recognize that you need professional help in a situation, you are not smart enough to give yourself insight in a situation.
Time and just let it play out and say what it needs to say. Definitely, I would look for ways to learn from your hardships and visualize new goals as much as you can as you think through or experience these fears. You have to kind of come around to accepting your failures. This is all part of the fear. In fact, fears are often built around fear of failure, and every parent on the planet has failed at some point, at some time, and, at something along the way. We all do it. You're not alone, and it's better to just recognize your failures and again, sit with them and learn from them and do your best to move on. The next category of emotions would be
I'm not going to stop every time now that she says you should just move on, but that's so stupid. I get it, I guess. I get that, the goal of this is to move on from something you did. But the other people don't get to do that. As much as I hope her daughter doesn't think about her at all, it has to happen, right? It has to happen. Every time there's a holiday, every time there's a birthday, and she said it herself, her daughter was the one who remembered everyone's birthdays. There's some memory there, and that sucks. That sucks. And that sucks. And her daughter doesn't get to forgive herself because her daughter's not at fault. Her daughter gets to forgive her mother if she wants to, and that sucks. Because Diane doesn't have to change at all. Diane doesn't have to do anything positive. Diane doesn't have to be a good mom or a good person. She has to forgive herself.
Disgust, and this category includes loathing, outrage, contempt, envy. And I think in this category, really what we're trying to do is resist the seduction of righteous judgment, because that's what leads to disgust.
You think she wrote that herself? Resist the seduction of righteous judgment. You think she just sat down after that and just was super proud of it? I want to know who Diane would be if Diane didn't think she was way smarter than everyone else, right? If you could sit down and be like, I'm a regular person, maybe she'd be willing to actually get help from someone. The thing is, really, her daughter is active on social media, right? If Diane posted videos of her getting help, going to therapy, and becoming a better person, people would start telling your daughter that. People would start going into her daughter's comment section hey, your mom's gotten a lot better. Hey, I know you guys don't talk, but in case you want to know, your mom seems to be doing really well and is becoming an entirely different person. It would just happen. It would just happen. In the same way that people are going into her comment section and being like, dude, your mom sucks. Glad you got away. Now that Diane's making these videos. And there you go. That's your way back into your daughter's life without screwing your way in there, without digging a knife into her chest and being like, let me in. I'm Diane. Instead, she just forgave herself because being a mom is too much work. It's a lot of work. I get that. I don't personally have any experience being a parent unless you count Toast. I don't really want the experience of being a parent. I think I would be exactly who my mom was, and that is bad for everyone. I know enough to say that parenting is not easy. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me. Being a mom has to be one of the hardest things you can do, and being a good mom harder still. You're allowed to make mistakes. Mistakes don't make you a bad mom. Being a bad mom and forgiving yourself for it does. It does. I think I'd be a really bad parent. I do. I get to sit back from the perspective of hey, I'm not a parent. Does this apply to me? Yes, it does. It does. Surprise, right? I don't have parents. But I don't ever have to be on the side of like my child doesn't want to talk to me. And I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't. There are situations in which I feel like I can take the lead in terms of like me and my partner and things we do. And there are situations where it feels like she definitely has to. And in being a parent, it would be unfair to say that she would have to, but I think it would be true. I don't know that I could do it. I don't know that I don't know. I don't know that I have it in me to like pay attention to that thing as much as like it deserves to be paid attention to. And when I call it, it's not real. I don't have a kid, nor do I want one. When Diane calls her kid it, like in that video where she's hiking, that's a problem. That's a person. That's a person you don't have any respect for. And that happens to be your daughter. So forgive yourself for the things you did to her. I hope she does too for her sake, but I hope you never know about it. Somebody just commented on one of the last videos. I'm going to assume it's about Diane. I cannot tell if it is genuine sadness or just manipulation. She does seem very sad over her kid cutting her off. However, I can't tell if it was a pity party or just grief. I will say I do think the sadness is genuine. I don't think there's a very easy way to feign being sad over your child leaving you, your child deciding they no longer want you to be their parent. I don't think these are two different things. I think you can be genuinely sad and use that sadness to try and manipulate people.
So first of all, you need to notice when those judgmental thoughts pop into your head. It's just so easy to let them in and be all, oh, she did this and he did that. And what a terrible mom or what a terrible daughter. I mean, they just creep right in there and they do nothing but turn you into they just turn you to negativity and they destroy your life and they eat you from within. So step number one, the most important step is to recognize these when they come in. See them coming, let them go, and remember to breathe. Breathe your way through this. Don't let your feelings control your thinking, especially these righteous judgment, disgust type feelings. Don't let them control you. And when you feel that righteous judgment coming in and, you're just starting to feel disgusted with it.
Every video I get into a part where I talk about how I hate the way she speaks. She did it again, where she picked like 2 words she was so proud of and then just keeps saying them. Righteous judgment, dude. Righteous judgment, righteous judgment, righteous judgment. There's no like higher power overseeing your estrangement. It is you. It is just you. It is 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 you. Everything within this is you. Your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs, you. Unfortunately, and I am going to say unfortunately, no one is going to judge you as hard as you're judging yourself. And I say that being unfortunate because she's not judging herself very harshly. And so when we do, it doesn't affect her. And so you could have a circle around her of the entire planet saying, Diane, you're a bad mom. And as long as she doesn't think that, she's fine. No, I was a good mom. I did everything right. I don't know why my daughter did this. This list of reasons, those reasons aren't good enough. I'm going to be so real. Unless I just missed something, I don't even know what she would be getting at with self-righteous judgment. Maybe in the way that she speaks of like when she does this whole thing, when she's like, oh, don't let that shiz talker talk about you like that. Maybe she's saying like, your thoughts are going to judge you harshly. Don't listen to them. But like, maybe listen to them. Surprise, dude, you're a bad person. And maybe you know that deep down.
Son or the daughter or the dad or the mom or whatever, whoever the family member is, try to do the opposite of what you're feeling. See these feelings coming in. You feel like kicking something. Laugh instead. Try to laugh. Try to break the pattern. Try to just become aware of what's happening and see if you can't break the pattern. This is the first step to healing. And as you're breaking your patterns, you want to also try to imagine yourself in your own mindful, healthy, happy life.
A couple of things there. If your first reaction to anything that is not immediate danger, is to get angry, I already cannot trust you. As an adult, anger should never be your first reaction. There are times when that's not true, right? Like if somebody like hits your child, right? Like, oh, I'd be so mad. Like that's not at all what we're talking about. In this situation, if your first thing to do when somebody brings up a boundary with you is to get mad at them, massive red flag. If you're going to go, well, instead, I'll just laugh. Weird. Like you're the Joker now. I don't know how to feel about any of that. I feel like you can't always control your feelings, your first thought. I think the issue is that people who get mad typically tend to be younger, right? When you think of people, even like children's first emotion, a lot of the time is to get mad because they don't know how to express themselves and they don't know what they're feeling. As you get older, I do think it's your responsibility to transition out of that. And so by the time you're Diane's age, I will not excuse it. Even if you are just straight so mad, if you're someone who lets that out immediately, I can't, like you're an adult. You should not be doing that. Like that, those are the people that turn around, punch walls and go, sorry, you made me so mad. Like, shut up, dude. What? You're an adult. You're 18, 19, 20, sure, whatever. But you're not Diane 70. And if you, as an adult, someone who's like our age and older, have not managed to just figure that out, that's another good reason to go to therapy. That's another good reason to seek professional help.
I know it's hard in the beginning, but if you can just kind of start to envision your life going forward without all of these feelings of disgust, just imagine what that might be like. And of course, talk to somebody you trust about your feelings. That is another way to work through the disgust. So let's talk about anger. Anger is, I think, one that takes a lot of moms by surprise because you're not supposed to be angry at your kids like this. And anger includes rage, annoyance, resentment, cynicism, morbidness. And here are some things you can do.
I misheard that.
Resentment, cynicism, morbidness.
What is she saying? Morbid? No, I don't think morbidness is right. That would not make sense at all. Unless she's like, oh, I'm having these morbid thoughts of like dismembering my daughter because I'm mad at her. Like that's so, I wouldn't, I heard morbidness like Joe did, but that is absolutely not right. Like, oh, I'm mad at my daughter. I hope she doesn't soak today. Yeah.
And here are some things you can do to blow off steam when you're alone and you need to, get it out of you. I have 13 tips for you here. Number 1 is to throw or break something safely at home, like try throwing ice or chopping wood.
Maybe this is a me thing. I don't get mad. And I can recognize that the ability of anger was beaten out of me as a kid. However, if I did, I don't think things like throwing things or punching a wall, anything that simulates that kind of violence would be in any way therapeutic for me. There are things that are, but they're like things that like I grew up with or that are fun. Like wrestling, I think wrestling is a lot of fun. I'll grapple anyone. But that's just like a fun thing. Like no one's trying to hurt anyone or like simulate the action of. I think one of those rooms where you go in and you like throw plates would be fun, but not because I'm trying to get anything out. I just think that's like fun. I like throwing things, not at anything or anyone. Just like generally like give me a baseball, give me a football. I don't think these are issues. I think like this is fun. Yeah. Throw ice at the ground. Why not? It just is strange to me that this is kind of like the only thing she's provided solutions for, I guess. Or the only things that like it feels like she's provided solutions for.
Number 2, scream it out in private, at home. You can do it into a pillow, in water, or in your car, someplace away from everybody where you're not going to scare other people or alarm them. Number 3, sing it out. Put on that favorite playlist and sing your freaking heart out. Number 4, dance it out. Close the door, put on your favorite tune, dance like your life depends on it. Doesn't matter how silly it looks, just do it.
I don't mind these suggestions at all. I would not, if I was in this situation, I would not be able to get myself in the headspace of even being able to pretend, right? Like, I don't want to dance in my living room.
Do a tough workout, number 5. So running or cardio or kickboxing or, anything that makes you break a sweat. Number 6, composition. So you can journal, scrapbook, write, record. Make videos, start a blog, express yourself somewhere. Number 7, create. So you can draw or paint or weave or sculpt or knit or quilt or sew or whatever it is. So, not soul, build something so that just you're creating something from scratch. And sometimes that activity can take you out of your anger or be a good way to vent the anger. Number 8, I love this one, rage clean. So just get down and start scrubbing those floors, the sink, the bathtub, anything that really needs it. Rage gardening, number 9, is another one. So just attack those weeds and get them out of your life. Trim the bushes, trim the trees, dig those holes, just get the anger out that way.
I think it's like the 4th time I've said this, whatever, right? Like, these are all very generic and regular suggestions. Why didn't she do any of them? Why is it that when in this situation, she recorded herself, which was one of the things, and then uploaded it, and then made a whole point of blaming her daughter on the internet to a million people?
Number 10, change your surroundings. So go on a vacation, get out of your house, visit a friend, go out for a walk. Number 11, destroy a physical representation of your anger. So rip, shred, or burn something. Number 12, verbalize your anger. This one may sound silly, but it can be helpful. Talk to a photo, a doll, or anything as if it was your child. Just get it out. Number 13, turn it around. I've mentioned this one before. Do the opposite of what you feel like doing. So if you feel like punching something, try hugging someone instead. Now, sometimes you're in situations with other people and you can't deal with your anger the same way as you would alone. So here are some tips for dealing with it when you're feeling triggered.
Oh, she did it again. I didn't mean to pause for triggered. I was going to pause to talk about something else, but like, she did it again.
But alone. So here are some tips for dealing with it when you're feeling triggered.
Why can't she just say things like a normal person? Like, every time she says the word triggered, she like makes a whole deal out of it. Like,
as you would alone. So here are some tips for dealing with it when you're feeling triggered.
I can't even remember what I was going to say, dude.
I've mentioned this one before. Do the opposite of what you feel like.
Oh, right. And talking about dealing with your emotions around other people and dealing with your anger in ways that you normally wouldn't because you're around other people. Yeah, just turn around and just punch someone, dude. Kick them in the stomach, spit on me, make me guys my eyes out. Yeah, what's your name, girl? What's your sign? Man, you must be about your mind. Ray, beer god goes blind. I'm just trying to unwind. Now I'm going to make you dance. It's your chance. You just start rapping, just lose it in public. That has to be kind of funny. I'd be on her side.
Now, sometimes you're in situations with other people and you can't deal with your anger the same way as you would alone. So here are some tips for dealing with it when you're feeling triggered. So number one rule always, think before you speak. So you need to be aware that the heat of the moment is coming on. Stop.
Oh, I wish I just had access to the video she deleted, because think before you speak. Here's a 40-minute video I make where I talk about UCLA only bringing in DEI medical students, and so they're all unqualified because they're not white. Is this a thumbnail? I think this is a thumbnail. Look at her face, dude.
Breathe before you say anything. Number 2, calmly express your concerns. Just be clear, be non-confrontational. If the other person gets heated, then maybe it's not a good time for a discussion. Number 3, take a time out. If triggered, step away from the situation to gather your thoughts. Number 4, go get some exercise. If you just feel that anger escalating, just excuse yourself and go out for a really brisk walk. Number 5, identify possible solutions. So when you perhaps run up against people and you just want to complain, don't complain. Maybe offer ideas to solve the problem instead. When you're speaking to someone, stick with those I statements. This is number 6. I feel this versus you did that helps you stay out of the ever tempting blame game. Number 7, don't.
I will say, right, like she's probably a much different person than she was when she released the very first video. And it would be unfair to stitch those together, to stitch the advice she's giving now to something she said a year ago. However, though the way she speaks and maybe even the ideas that she has have changed slightly, she's still someone who did this terrible thing to her daughter, continues doing it by making these videos, just needs way too much attention, and does not have it in her to recognize that she is wrong or the problem. Again, she is not the person who should be giving anyone advice. She's not.
Hold a grudge. It's hard, I know, but try not to be swallowed up by your own bitterness. You've got to learn to forgive. Number 8,
But forgive who? Yourself? That's not your job. Like that just sucks. That sucks. That Diane gets to forgive herself for something she did to someone else. And that other person has one option: to also forgive Diane.
Use humor to release tension. When all else fails, make a joke, but don't use sarcasm.
It'd be really funny if if the tension here was sitting between Diane and her daughter, and they're getting into this like heated conversation, and out of nowhere it gets quiet and Diane goes, "Your mom, dude." That would get me really good.
Sarcasm is easily misunderstood, as I have found out on my own channel here, so try to stay away from that one.
You're not sarcastic, you're stupid. It's like, she did the Elon Musk thing, where Elon will say something on Twitter, right? And no one will think it's funny. And he'll be like, oh, I guess like people don't get sarcasm. He does it every time. Every time he says something that's not funny, he'll like quote tweet it in like 4 hours and be like, it was sarcasm. You're just not funny, dude. Just can't even make jokes anymore, dude. The woke mafia, dude. These darn DEI hires, dude.
Number 9, practice relaxation skills. So breathe, say something calming to yourself in your head, get away from the situation, listen to some calming music.
Knowing who Diane is, to calm herself down, she like closes her eyes, earmuffs herself, and goes, there are no black people around. There are no minorities around. If I have to have surgery, it'll be by a white doctor. If I'm hungry, I can get food later at the clan cookout. And I wish I had those clips. And there's an Australian therapist who does have that whole racist video Diane made.
And number 10, know when to seek help. If your anger issues are causing you to hurt yourself or others, again, get professional help. This image has been floating around the internet. I love it.
Oh my God. It's a snake with a saw. This is like that random woman on Twitter. She's like some political commentary person who put like a fake target on her forehead. And it was like, this is what it's like being a white woman in America. And everyone was like, you're right, because it's a fake target and you put it on yourself.
Us with our anger, okay? The story is the snake wanders into somebody's tool shed, somehow gets entangled with this saw, gets angry about it. Every time he squeezes the saw harder, he only hurts himself and he ends up killing himself because he can't let go of his anger.
Why is the snake a boy in this situation? Are all snakes boys? In the way that like all cats are girls?
So let that be a metaphor for yours. And then the next category, which is a big one, is sadness. And this includes grief, pensiveness, numbness, despair. Here are some tips for getting through the really dark days of estrangement. You want to replace overthinking with taking action. So hopelessness gets intensified when we spend a lot of time in our heads. So to combat this, we want to spend a little less time in our thoughts and more in the outside world. So again, what hobbies, sport, creative activity could you do to lift your spirits when you're feeling bad? I know it's really hard. I know it sometimes seems hopeless, but once we get going, we begin to feel a little bit better. Make yourself do something constructive. Feelings aren't facts. They're chemical reactions. They come, they go. Just keep that in mind. If you're not sure what to do, anything that distracts you from your negative thoughts is a good start. So that can be as simple as just watching a movie that makes you laugh or listening to music that makes you feel good.
I only listen to sad girl music, so I don't have any music that like pumps me up or like makes me feel good at all.
And in this estrangement, wherever you can, look for new meaning. Just take small steps to follow any positive instinct that flits its way into your head. And this might help you explore how to rebuild your identity after a crisis like this. There's actually a whole school of therapy based on this idea called logotherapy, and it was founded by Viktor Frankl after he survived a Nazi concentration camp.
This woman spends way too much time on Wikipedia, like reading the first paragraph of things. I don't think she's ever once been able to go in depth into anything except for one thing, the like 4 turns that every other person who has any sort of expertise has been like, I wouldn't really listen to that.
So in these unspeakably inhumane conditions, he kept asking himself how his suffering could somehow help others in the future. And so he survived. He wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning, and this book has inspired millions of people worldwide.
She's not read the book. There's no way. That's it. There's no way she read that. She maybe read a little Wikipedia article. You remember that, like, the first episode of The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, where she's just like down in the bunker, just turning the wheel forever. And she talks about how she doesn't get tired because she's not turning it forever. She's turning it for 10 seconds. And when her 10 seconds are up, she's turning it for 10 seconds. And when her 10 seconds are up, she's turning it for 10 seconds. I kind of just feel that way just listening to Diane talk. We're not getting anything out of this. She's never going to take any sort of criticism as anything other than the haters being haters.
Consider too that this difficult experience might actually lead you to something even better and more meaningful than you could have previously imagined. Don't suffer alone. It's tempting to withdraw, and time can be healthy, but loneliness and isolation can absolutely make us feel worse. So reach out and lean on others. Find the balance between healing yourself from within and reaching out to others for help without. Mapping your history of loss. Grief is the price we pay for love. Mapping your losses shines a light on unresolved issues that may actually hinder your daily life. So many people are taught to minimize losses, but they can build up like plaque in your arteries. So if you do this exercise that I'm about to show you, you will look at the losses in your life and you'll observe patterns of coping And it will help you deal with any unresolved grief that may be out there.
There are losses you shouldn't have to deal with, right? You should expect that your first romantic relationship will not be your last. You're going to have breakup after breakup after breakup after breakup. And that's just how that's going to work out. Just is. You get over them eventually. You should never have to deal with losing a child, whether that's like actually losing them or them no longer wanting to be a part of your life. When you do deal with them no longer wanting to be a part of your life, you shouldn't speak of that like a breakup, like you're just going to move on to the next one. She kind of did, right? And this is another thing that has been said in my comments a lot that I can't look at because that video is also deleted. My comment section a lot has said that her other daughter is now in a monastery. So early on, when they first made these videos, Diane and Ted would speak about their other daughter. We're estranged from one daughter, not the other. They no longer mention her. I'm assuming it's because she's at the monastery. She also ran away from them. She speaks of her relationships with her daughters like she's just going to have another one later. And that's gross. All you had to do was be a better mom. Not a great one, maybe not even a good one, but actively not a bad one. And when you lost one daughter, instead of reflecting, instead of actually finding some sort of insight and going, what can I do? What can I do to be better for my other daughters so that this doesn't happen again? You doubled down. You slumped into being the person that forced your daughter away and then did it again. Somebody mentioned in my comments that they feel bad for Diane because it's also hard for her. And it would be so easy to have some sort of empathy for Diane if Diane got on here and said, this is the situation I'm in. I feel bad for the way I handled it. I hope my daughter's doing good. Instead of Diane getting on here, getting on some soapbox going, this is how you can move on from your bad kids no longer wanting to be a part of your life. It's like anything else, right? When you read or write a story, you want your characters to be someone you can empathize with or look up to. Diane is neither. And she so desperately wants to be. That's why she gets on here and makes these videos so that one, you feel bad for her. And then now she wants to be someone you can look up to when she hands you this advice. But she didn't do a good job of establishing either. She did not give us a reason to feel bad for her. I feel bad for her daughters. I really, really do. And I hope they're doing great. And she is not in a position to give anyone advice. If she sat back and said, these were the mistakes I've made and you should avoid making them too, that is entirely different than just getting on here and preaching. That I could understand.
And it can help.
We're 2 hours in. We've crossed the 2-hour mark. We're only 18 minutes into this video.
You practice being totally honest with yourself. So I'm going to show you an example of a loss graph, and it starts from in the beginning when you were born. What? Your first memory really is when it begins, and it goes through the years up to this year. And these are all the losses that one can have in a life. And they can be the loss of a parent, a pet, a loved one. They could be a breakup of a boyfriend or girlfriend. They can be a loss of money, a loss of health, a loss of a job, a loss of a sibling, a loss of a grandparent.
Okay. Weird. I understand the word loss sprouting into different things, but that's what it has to be. When you lose things, you lose different categories of things or people. Losing someone you love is a lot different than losing money. Even if it's a lot of money, like these are entirely separate things. Do people handle these things the same? Also, lumping and losing romantic relationships is very different than losing your spouse, a child, a parent, or even a pet. I don't know how you lump those together. And I don't mean like the outliers, right? I'm going to assume you probably don't have as many marriages as you do straight relationships. Maybe I'm wrong, but you probably have dated more people than you've married. And you've probably broken up with people more than like you've had people unexpectedly die during your relationship with them. So those are entirely different things. I don't see how you lump them together just because they start with the word loss. I lost my wallet in a Ross once when I was 6 and I had $13 in it. And I felt really bad and I cried. But that's entirely different than my last breakup or how I'd feel if like me and Lee broke up or if something happened to Toast. I think I am starting to realize that Diane doesn't really know how to have feelings. She knows she has them, but I don't think she knows what they are. Like, I think she knows that she's supposed to be sad about having lost a daughter, but I don't think she knows how to be or what sadness is actually supposed to think, what sadness is actually supposed to feel like. Because if she feels the same when she loses a daughter or she loses a parent as she does when she loses a random relationship, then I think you're just, I don't know how you help that. I don't think that's something you can change. I think that just sucks to be a person in her life.
They can be any kind of loss. Maybe you were forced to move as a child and you didn't want to, and you lost all your friends because of it. Any kind of loss is what you put on this graph. And the deeper the line, the deeper the loss in your heart. So mapping things this way is an excellent method for.
I don't like the comparing of losses next to each other. Like, that feels gross to me. I don't like that. I don't like that on this list. She's going to have losing her dad, right? Her dad did pass away, and then losing the relationship with her daughter. And she's choosing to like drop one lower than the other. And logically you want to be like, oh, like your child should mean a little bit more to you than your parent. But do you not feel bad qualifying that? Quantifying that, I guess? Do you not feel bad putting a number to how much things hurt you compared to each other? Like, I get it. I get that maybe she was like, oh, my dog died when I was 10. That's a 5. And then next to it you go, oh, my first high school boyfriend broke up with me. That's a 9. Like, that's so weird to me. I don't like that at all. If you want to list out these things, I completely understand that. I also wouldn't do that. But I get it. Quantifying them, I don't see what that does for you. I guess you can go back and be like, I've dealt with something this hard, so I can deal with something this hard. But I don't think grief is something you should hope that you get used to. Or loss. I think anything is just experience. And if you're experiencing grief so often that you get used to it, then you definitely need some sort of help. Maybe it works for her. If it does, I would not have said it in public.
Or really getting a grip on what you've already lost in life and thinking about how you coped with it, and just kind of acknowledging it and putting the whole estrangement into perspective. Because when we do this, we realize, grief and loss, they go beyond just death. Grief is that conflicting group of human emotions caused by an end to or a change in a familiar pattern of behavior. So anything can qualify. You can grieve over so many things. You can grieve over moving, losing jobs, losing health, losing money, losing innocence. Any changes in relationships, places, events, and things can all cause feelings of grief. So your homework for this time, if you're serious about healing, is to spend an hour drawing out your loss history graph on paper.
Most of the people that get to this point in the video are not the estranged parents. So this is not really going to go out to anyone that should hear it. This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea. Dealing with grief is something that's much easier to do with other people around you, and especially a professional. And that professional, I get it. Like, maybe if you've never gone to therapy before, I get it. I get being the person that's like, oh, it's not going to help me. Oh, they don't know me. That's the point. They don't know you. They get to be objective about how you're feeling. And the thing is, though the situation you're in may be somewhat unique to you, your person, and the other people it's with, the situation itself isn't. And a person you're seeing, a professional, has probably seen it before and has much better ideas on how to deal with it than you do, and will come up with yourself. If this is where you are, if you are someone whose children don't want to talk to them anymore, or even if you're a child who no longer has the parents in their life, you should seek help. For anything, if anything, just to feel like you're taking a shower. And that's how I describe therapy. I shower every single day, even if I haven't left my house, even if I'm not sweaty, even if I'm just vibing. Sometimes therapy is just a way to make sure that you're clean. You don't have to go just when you're covered in mud and dirt and sadness and grief. You can go just to make sure that you sleep better that night.
And if you're still unclear about how to do this, you can Google this concept and you will probably find lots of ideas for doing it. But definitely draw out that whole history of losses to help put your parental estrangement loss into perspective and just help you further understand your grieving in life. And then number 2, I want you to remember to be thankful for something every single day. Just spend 5 minutes. That's all I ask. It can be simple as the air you breathe or the sunlight outside. If you're really depressed and you're having a hard time being grateful for anything, just spend 5 minutes being grateful for anything every day. And as a reminder, I am not a therapist. I am just a mom who has gone through this process of moving from heartbreak to healing, and I'm sharing my experiences for anyone who might be interested. So next time, we're going to talk about reflection, deep reflection. What's a good way to reflect with an emphasis on what can I control and what I can't control? I'll see you there.
I'm so glad you put dumped by your child in each title of the series. This title sums it up perfectly. That's so weird. My kids left with the wife like 7 years ago. They have not spoken to me since. I used to be frantic about it. Now I really don't care about them now. Maybe they're doing fine, maybe not. They're lost. Dude, if your wife left you with your kids, you're probably the problem. Also, like, this is so stupid because people can't just do this. My kids left with my wife like 7 years ago. Like, they cannot do this, right? Like, that's kidnapping. So if you're not contesting that, or if you know that, if you're not contesting that, or if you know that if you contest it, you lose, like, you're very obviously the problem. But like, you can't just run away with someone's kids.